Today, for our deep dive, we're going to unpack what really looks like a blueprint for the next generation of successful AI startups.
Mhm.
We're tracking this one company's phenomenal journey. I mean, they started with this huge conviction, applied tech to a super traditional industry law, and then made this massive pivot.
And it paid off big time. A $650 million cash exit just 2 years ago.
It's an incredible number.
It is, but this is, it's more than just a success story. We're not just here to celebrate a number.
Hmm.
This whole journey, it really distills down into three critical lessons that any builder listening right now really needs to absorb.
Okay, so what are they?
So we're focusing on, one, how to find ideas that actually have value in this new landscape. Two, and this is the big one, how to go from a cool demo to a product that's actually reliable, professional grade.
And three.
And three, how you actually market and sell that kind of, highly technical value.
Got it. Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. The founder, their background was as a coder who then took a detour into law.
Right. And like so many tech people who jump into these old school professions, law, finance, whatever, they immediately saw these massive inefficiencies, just thought there has to be a better way to do
In a
this.
much faster way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that conviction, that led to them founding their company way back in 2013. They were focused on NLP long before the current, LLM revolution really took off.
And they were successful. By summer of 2022, they were doing something like $20 million in revenue, had a team of about 100 people. They'd already made it by most standards.
Yeah, no. But then, the big shift, they got early access to GPT-4.
And this is where the story gets really interesting.
This is the moment that changed everything. They took what most people would see as a huge, a radical risk. They basically stopped their core business.
The $20 million business.
Yep. Shelved their successful products and put their entire engineering team on building something totally new. And that new product was CoCounsel, an AI assistant for lawyers.
And that pivot, that's what led to the acquisition.
Directly. That speed and conviction got them the $650 million from Thomson Reuters.
It's a huge number, but the founder's point, and the reason we're doing this deep dive, is that future builders could see even bigger valuations because AI just unlocks so much.
Exactly. So our mission for you today is to really distill how they did it, the tactical stuff.
Okay, let's unpack it. Step one, the most fundamental, the idea phase, finding what people actually want.
Well, the classic advice is always make something people want.
Yeah.
But what LLMs have done is make finding high-value ideas,
Yeah.
well, a lot easier. They've narrowed the search space.
How so? In the past, it felt like this long, abstract search for some brand new need.
Yeah, but now the easiest way to find an idea that has, proven pre-existing demand is to just look for tasks that people are already paying other humans a ton of money to do.
Okay, so you mean like a paralegal, an insurance adjuster.
A paralegal, a personal trainer, an executive assistant, a software architect. If a job has a salary, two things for sure. There's demand for it, and someone is willing to pay a premium for it.
That completely reframes the whole challenge. You're not inventing something new. You're just accelerating or automating something that already exists.
And the sources break this down really well into three categories, sort of based on your level of ambition.
Okay.
The first is assistance. This is what the company we're talking about did. You help a professional do their job way faster, reading documents, redlining contracts, The human is still there, but they're 100 times more efficient.
Makes sense. What's number two?
Second is replacement. This is the full automation of a role. Think an AI-powered accounting firm, a totally autonomous financial analyst, maybe even a robot that folds your laundry.
Ambitious.
Very. And the third, which is maybe the most exciting, is the previously unthinkable.
Okay, like what?
Like tasks that were just considered insane to even attempt because of the cost or the scale, like having thousands of AI instances review millions of legal documents all at once to spot some new emerging pattern. A few years ago, that would cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, it's just a big compute job.
And this is where it gets really mind-bending, the shift in the total addressable market, the TAM.
Oh, absolutely.
Builders, they used to calculate TAM by taking the number of professionals and multiplying by some small monthly fee, like $50 a user.
That math is completely obsolete now. Just throw it out. The new TAM is essentially the combined salaries and overhead of every single person currently doing that job.
Wow.
If a big company is already paying, say, $15,000 a month for a specialized paralegal, they are more than willing to pay an order of magnitude more than a simple SaaS subscription to solve that same problem reliably.
So you stop selling software for $20 a month and you start selling a professional service for what, 5 or 10,000 a month?
Exactly. You're increasing your potential market value by a factor of 10, 100, maybe even more. You're not a tool anymore. You are a discounted professional service.
And the client already has that line item in their budget for the human cost, which makes the sale easier.
Much easier. You're replacing this known massive cost with a predictable and much lower operational cost.
Now, all this talk of replacement and automation,
Yep.
it can sound a bit dystopian,
Okay.
job losses and so on.
It can. But the founder had a really powerful take on this. On the bigger picture, the democratization this all unlocks.
Right. It's not just about replacing lamplighters with electricity.
No, it's about access.
Right.
I mean, look at the legal field. The data shows that over 85% of low-income people just don't get the legal help they need. Why? Because human lawyers are too slow and way too expensive.
So the market has failed them. It's not a lack of demand. It's a lack of affordable supply.
Precisely. So if AI can make a lawyer 100 times faster and 10 times cheaper, or just handle the basic stuff on its own, you're fundamentally democratizing access to society.
People who are priced out of getting a divorce or fighting an eviction.
Or getting financial advice.
Yeah.
Suddenly they can say yes. That utility, I think, gives this tech a meaning that goes way beyond the balance sheet.
Agreed. Okay, so we've identified a high-value problem. Let's move to phase 2, the build phase. This is where reliability is everything.
This is where it gets really hard.
A great idea and a huge TAM, they mean nothing if the product just doesn't work reliably, right? So what's the first step?
Domain expertise. Full stop. You
Yeah.
absolutely cannot fly blind.
So the company we're discussing succeeded because a huge chunk of their staff, they were lawyers.
Yeah, something like 30 to 40% of their staff, including key people in engineering, were experienced lawyers. They had lived the problem. They knew the details.
So for anyone listening who's targeting, I don't know, wealth management or supply chains, you either need to become an expert yourself or make sure your co-founder already is one.
You have to. You have to know exactly what the best person in that field does minute by minute. And once you have that knowledge, you start the build by basically reverse engineering that expert.
Oh.
You ask, how would the absolute best person do this task if they had unlimited time and 1,000 AIs to help them?
And then you break that down into tiny atomic steps.
Exactly right. Let's stick with the legal research example. A top lawyer doesn't just do research. They have a process, right? They clarify the client's question. They make a detailed research plan. They run multiple searches. They read and filter everything, synthesize notes, draft a memo, and then finally they check all their citations and accuracy.
And each of those steps helps define your technical architecture. You decide what's code and what's a prompt.
Yes. And you should always use good old-fashioned, reliable code whenever you can. Prompts are slow, they're expensive, and they aren't deterministic.
So like counting clauses in a contract, that's code.
That's simple Python. But assessing the risk of those clauses, or turning messy notes into a coherent argument, that's a prompt. That's where you inject the human-level judgment through the LLM.
The sources mention 2 paths here. If the steps are always the same, you build a simple workflow.
Right. A goes to B goes to C. Easy. But if the steps change based on the situation, if the AI needs to decide what to do next...
Then you need a more complex agentic approach.
Correct. But either way, the biggest, hardest barrier is reliability. And you get there through what they call evaluation, or evals.
This is huge. Because we've all seen cool demos that are maybe 60 or 70% accurate, which is fine for a demo.
But it's catastrophic in practice. In finance, in medicine, in law. 70% accuracy gets you sued. It gets people hurt.
And so how do you get past that?
It starts with defining, very rigorously, what does good look like? Not just for the final output, but for every single tiny step along the way.
Can you give me an example of that, a microstep?
Sure. For a legal search query, good might mean the query must include at least 2 statutory references and the primary jurisdiction. Or for the final answer, good might be the citation accuracy must be above 98%.
You make it objectively gradable.
Has to be. True, false, a score from 0 to 7, something you can track. You start with a dozen tests, you scale to 50, then 100, you use real-world edge cases, and you always have a holdout set to make sure you're actually improving and not just, overfitting to your tests.
This brings us to what might be the most surprising lesson, which is just the sheer grind involved. It sort of flies in the face of the whole move fast and break things culture.
It really does. So many teams, they hit that 60 or 70% accuracy wall, and they just give up. They conclude the LLM can't do it.
But that's not the answer.
No. The real insight here is the willingness to spend, and the founder described it as 2 weeks sleeplessly working on one single prompt iterating the evils over and over just to pull that accuracy up point by point.
The goal isn't 100%, right? Something like 97%.
Exactly. You want to get to 97% accuracy, where that last 3% of errors are the same kind of judgment calls a human expert would make. That's the threshold. That's when you can start charging professional rates.
And I'm guessing the work doesn't stop after you ship.
Oh, never. Customers will always do, in the founder's words, the dumbest tret. They'll use misspelled queries, they'll mix up contexts.
And every one of those failures is a gift.
It's a crucial new test case. You have to be relentless. I mean, sometimes changing a single word in a system prompt only gets you a 1% accuracy boost. But in a high-stakes field like law, that 1% is immense. It's about liability, it's about trust.
So the secret wasn't some proprietary model. It was just this relentless, disciplined evaluation process. If you nail the domain expertise and the reliability through evils, you're basically 90% of the way there.
That is the core lesson. Most of the junk on the market today is junk because the builders skipped that part.
Okay, let's move to the final phase, the market phase. You've built it, it's 97% reliable. How do you get people to pay you for it?
Well, the founder had a pretty aggressive take on this, a real counterpoint to the usual VC advice.
Which is usually that sales and marketing are more important than the product.
Yeah, and their take was that that's utter nonsense. The single most important part of your go-to-market strategy is having a genuinely exceptional product.
Okay, I have to push back a little. Isn't that survivorship bias? For every amazing product that succeeded, there are probably 10 that failed because they couldn't market it.
Marketing is important, of course it is. But a truly great product does a lot of the work for you. It creates free marketing through word of mouth, through news coverage. If your product is actually 97% reliable and makes people 100 times faster, your salespeople stop being salespeople and they become basically order takers. The product quality has to be the foundation.
And that value proposition has to change your pricing. You can't use a traditional SaaS model here.
Absolutely not. You have to price based on the value you deliver. The example was, if a law firm charges $1,000 for a complex contract review, your AI service should charge $500 for that same review.
So you're still saving the client a huge amount, but you've gone from a $20 a month seat to a $500 transaction.
Exactly. But they also learned you have to listen to your customers about how they want to pay.
What do you mean?
Well, they tried per-use pricing first. It made sense mathematically. But their big corporate clients, they hated it. They needed predictable budgets.
So they went back to a seat model.
They did. But the seats were priced at $6,000 or $8,000 a year per user, not $20 a month. The customers preferred paying a premium for that consistency. So you have to ask.
And then there's the final hurdle, the trust gap. Big companies are scared of this stuff.
The trust gap is huge.
Yeah.
You're asking a manager to bet their career on an algorithm instead of a person. The best strategy is a head-to-head comparison. They would say, keep your human law firm, use our product right alongside them, and then just compare the results, the quality, the speed, the cost.
Pilots and studies.
Essential for building trust. Which brings us to a really important warning. The pilot conversion trap.
Right. Pilot recurring revenue, or PRR.
Yeah, a lot of startups right now are reporting really high ARR numbers, but a huge chunk of it is actually from these paid pilots. And if those 6-month pilots don't convert to real permanent contracts, the company is in big trouble.
And why don't they convert, even if the product is accurate?
It's often not about the accuracy. It's a failure of implementation. The company just doesn't have the training or the workflow support to make it stick.
So the sale is never truly over.
No. You have to focus on a conscious rollout. Training, support, founder involvement. The product isn't just the software, it's the whole human experience around it. We're even seeing the rise of deployed engineers, people who are on site with the customer, making sure it all works. That human touch is critical.
This all brings us back to the beginning, really. The core of this $650 million success was an obsession with deep domain expertise and achieving reliability through just relentless evaluation.
That's the path.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who's worried about competition, the market for this stuff is massive, trillions of dollars. Just focus on building a better, more reliable product because honestly, most of the early players are doing a pretty bad job.
So what does this all mean for you? The takeaway for any builder, no matter the stage you're at, is to stay maniacally focused on product quality and true product market fit. Don't get distracted by fundraising or HR policies as if they're the goal. They're not.
Right. And the provocative closing thought is this. If you were starting today, Focus on the biggest, most pervasive problem you can possibly imagine. We've talked about things like a household robot or democratizing high-end financial advice. Ask yourself, how big is the problem you're trying to solve? And what kind of massive human utility will your solution unlock if you can just make it reliable?
We really want to hear your ideas on this. What huge, maybe even trillion-dollar problem do you think AI is finally ready to solve? Let us know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below.
And if you found this deep dive useful, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on notifications. And of course, share this with others so they can get up to speed. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.